Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled. The devices we wear are changing, not just in size, but in their fundamental relationship with us.
We are strapped in, literally and figuratively, for this discussion on the future of wearables. I think that metaphor, strapped in, it really captures the shift we're seeing.
It does.
It implies trust, right? Reliance, a constant, intimate connection to a device that's just no longer passive.
Absolutely. The central theme we're exploring today isn't about wearables as, passive step counters anymore. We've moved way past simple data reporting. We are now entering the era of delegation, where the technology we wear shifts into an active, proactive co-pilot. This isn't just augmentation, this is agency.
Right.
Your device isn't just telling you what happened, it's predicting what will happen and taking steps to guide you.
And that's the mission today for Tomorrow Unveiled, to really analyze this monumental leap. We're going deep into the announcements and the scientific breakthroughs that the research team compiled for us.
And we're looking at it across three major fronts, right?
Exactly. First, how wearables are transforming clinical health, moving from a consumer gadget to a real medical device. Second, the radical redesigns being driven by materials science. And finally, the huge leap forward in integrated intelligence, the brain of the co-pilot.
And what are the foundational elements driving this huge technological acceleration? The research team identified three interconnected trends that are corroborating this entire transition. It's not just one area evolving, it's a convergence.
That's right. The first is highly visible. Radical materials science breakthroughs. These are allowing devices to essentially just disappear onto the skin, which solves that compliance hurdle we'll talk about.
Okay.
The second is the urgent necessity for efficient edge AI computing. We simply cannot rely on sending every tiny piece of biometric data to the cloud anymore.
For speed and for privacy, I imagine.
Both. And that leads directly to your third point, which in my mind is the most critical challenge of all.
Securing this incredibly intimate biometric data.
Exactly. This information, if it gets compromised, it has profound security, financial, and ethical implications that the industry is just scrambling to address right now.
Okay, let's start with the one that affects all of us. Health, our sources, they identified a great analogy.
The dashboard.
The dashboard. The idea that walking around without a constant, high-fidelity health monitor is as irrational as driving a car without a dashboard.
It's a powerful analogy, isn't it? For decades, we only went to the doctor when the check engine light came on.
When we felt symptoms.
Exactly. When we felt symptoms. The whole goal has shifted from reacting to disease to achieving true preventative care, catching issues before you even feel a thing.
And this capability is moving so swiftly from, a theoretical promise to something that's actually actionable.
Well, think about what a car dashboard does. It gives you real-time feedback on critical, non-obvious functions, tire pressure, oil temperature. Wearables are finally achieving that for the human body, but with your own personalized baseline.
And we have concrete, verifiable proof of this, working in preventative ways. The research highlighted this incredible story of a scientist who was routinely tracking their vitals.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
And detected their own Lyme disease using a smartwatch. They noticed these subtle, persistent changes in their resting heart rate and sleep metrics over several days.
All before feeling the classic flu-like symptoms.
Exactly. That's the power of continuous, personalized data, identifying an anomaly against your normal.
And that's one anecdote, but the technology is moving far beyond that. The clinical validation is high fidelity and widespread now. Data consistently shows that smartwatches equipped with EKG features are highly accurate in diagnosing atrial fibrillation, or AFib.
And this isn't just, consumer data. Major brands have received regulatory approvals, specifically FDA clearance for these AFib detection features.
That distinction, FDA clearance, is critical, isn't it? It means the device stops being a recreational gadget and starts becoming a legitimate clinical screening tool.
A tool that doctors can actually rely on.
And that insurance companies may even begin to integrate into preventative care models.
Precisely. Which leads us directly into the immense value we're seeing in managing chronic conditions, where the devices act as these constant, non-judgmental assistants.
Heart failure is a prime example where long-term remote patient monitoring, or RPM, is truly shining.
Right. Heart failure is notoriously challenging because patients are so frequently readmitted to the hospital when their condition worsens. So how are these simple-looking devices making a measurable difference in such a complex, life-threatening condition?
They utilize specialized medical wearables, so not just your consumer watch. We're talking about dedicated ECG patches like the Vital Patch or the Zio XT and specialized chest straps.
Okay.
And these continuously track standard metrics like heart rate and activity, but critically, they track internal biomarkers.
Tell us more about that. What's the specific internal marker that provides such an early warning sign?
The key is measuring something called intrathoracic impedance. Now, impedance, in simple terms, is just the body's electrical resistance.
Right.
Wearable devices place electrodes across the chest, and they're essentially measuring the resistance to a tiny electrical current passing between them.
Okay, so what does that tell you?
Well, when a heart failure patient begins to experience pulmonary congestion, that's fluid buildup in the lungs, that resistance changes dramatically
Why?
because water conducts electricity differently than air or tissue.
Ah, I see. So the device is effectively measuring the level of fluid in the lungs right at the very onset of a decline.
Exactly. And the beauty of this is that it detects these tiny variations over time, sometimes days or even weeks before the patient feels sick enough to notice symptoms, call the doctor, or worse, go to the emergency room.
It's predictive, not reactive.
That's the whole game.
And what's the quantifiable impact of catching those precursors so far in advance? Does it really move the needle for the healthcare system?
Oh, the impact is substantial and, maybe more importantly, financially significant. This is why hospitals are so eager to adopt this tech. Research consistently shows that using remote patient monitoring can reduce patient readmissions for heart failure exacerbation by up to 38%.
38%, that's huge.
It's massive. And when you consider that heart failure readmissions are incredibly expensive, often tens of thousands of dollars per stay, preventing 1/3 of them completely transforms the cost curve for chronic care management.
And it must be incredibly accurate to be that effective.
Very. Some platforms are demonstrating the ability to detect precursors to hospitalization with high sensitivity, ranging from 76 to 88%. This isn't just about reducing costs, it's literally stabilizing patients' lives and significantly improving their quality of care at home.
This shift is also redefining what consumer devices look like, right? It's driving commercial integration toward these near-medical standards.
It is.
We've seen devices like the Meta Ring and the Grand Watch emerge, specifically emphasizing the inclusion of medical-grade sensors for continuous heart rate and, crucially, non-invasive blood pressure monitoring.
Yes. The trend isn't just about capturing some data. It's about capturing clinically useful data. And that means two things. You need verifiable high accuracy, and you need seamless, secure integration.
Right.
Devices like the Meta Ring and Grand Watch are designed to facilitate near real-time data sharing using communication protocols like Bluetooth Low Energy and 5G, ensuring the data gets where it needs to go, and fast.
And the most critical piece of that integration puzzle, the thing that makes RPM truly scalable, is linking that data directly into electronic health records, the EHR systems that doctors use every single day.
That is the essential game changer. When the wearable data flows directly into the EHR, it bypasses that massive hurdle of patient noncompliance or trying to get them to do manual data input.
Of course.
It just streamlines communication with the entire healthcare team. The physician isn't relying on a patient's best guess of their average heart rate over the last week. They are seeing continuous, encrypted, clinically relevant trends. This data flow is what makes RPM so effective. It turns the wearable into a genuine part of the patient's medical team.
But, and there is always a but, the best technology in the world is useless if people just stop wearing it. And the data compiled by the research team shows that despite all this incredible medical promise, the biggest challenge remains human nature. Long-term compliance.
It's a persistent and costly issue. The data shows that nearly 1/3 of users abandon their activity trackers within 6 months.
Wow, 1/3.
That's a massive failure rate for technology that's intended to provide continuous care.
A 33% drop-off really undermines the entire preventative health model. What are the core reasons behind that abandonment?
Well, our sources point to several, but they essentially boil down to complexity, discomfort, and a perceived lack of actionable value.
So, if it's a pain to wear and I don't know what to do with the numbers, I just stop using it.
Exactly. If the device is bulky, if it requires constant inconvenient charging, or if the data it provides isn't immediately translated into specific personalized advice, the user just stops engaging. They revert to their baseline behavior. This abandonment issue is a major systemic barrier. The medical benefit just vanishes if we can't keep people strapped in.
So the failure of long-term compliance becomes the direct catalyst for the breakthroughs we're seeing in our next section, the radical evolution of physical design.
The technology has to conform to us, not the other way around.
Exactly. The current generation of wearables, they often fail because they feel like technology strapped to your body. The future, as envisioned in the research, is what we're calling the wear and forget philosophy.
That means prioritizing comfort, biocompatibility, and a discrete design so the device literally fades into the background of your daily life. It shouldn't be an annoying thing you constantly notice.
Precisely. And that need for comfort and high compliance is driving this diversification away from the traditional bulky wristwatch. We see the market expanding rapidly into these highly specialized form factors.
And the rise of smart rings is probably the most visible manifestation of this.
And that category is advancing so fast, from simple sleep trackers to really robust data collectors.
Right. Take the Oura Ring 4, for example. The research detailed its improvements, particularly the inclusion of improved 18-point sensor pathways. This is crucial because it significantly boosts accuracy across a really diverse user base.
Okay, so why does having 18 sensor points make such a big difference compared to just one or two?
It's a triangulation and redundancy effort. Previous rings really struggled with consistent data accuracy for users with higher BMI or darker skin tones, or even just when the ring twisted slightly on the finger during sleep. The 18 pathways ensure that no matter the skin pigment or minor movement, there's always an optimal pathway for the optical sensor to gather a clean signal. It just boosts confidence in the data you get, like heart rate variability and temperature, which are so critical for health insights.
And it's going beyond rings, isn't it?
Yeah.
The move is towards smart, jewelry-like earrings and necklaces. And the ultimate form factor, as predicted in the research, is wrist-worn devices that look like nothing more than a simple, thin piece of tape.
Ultra-soft electronics that conform perfectly to the skin without any resistance.
And it's not just jewelry. Smart clothing is becoming a massive opportunity as well.
It is, because smart clothing allows for a larger, more distributed contact area, which can actually be superior for collecting certain vital signs.
How so?
Well, a classic medical application is the Einthoven's triangle for an EKG. Instead of requiring 3 clumsy external electrodes, smart textiles can easily embed the necessary contact points across the torso in a shirt or a bra to get a high-fidelity EKG signal continuously.
Which makes long-term heart monitoring seamless, unobtrusive, and more clinically accurate than a single wrist-based sensor.
Exactly. But here's where the material science gets truly revolutionary, moving away from conventional electronics entirely. Our sources highlighted a massive breakthrough in what we've dubbed the smart sticker.
This one is fascinating.
It's a radical departure from the need for batteries, chips, or wireless radios. Researchers at CCNY's Grove School of Engineering demonstrated disposable electrotherapy patches that essentially function like a high-tech Band-Aid delivering controlled therapy.
I have to push back on that a bit. How can it be therapeutic, let alone regulated, if it has no electronics?
Yeah.
How does it deliver energy or medication without any power?
It's pure engineered material science and chemistry. These patches are ultra-thin and single-use. The researchers engineered a network of printed chemical components, so precise layers of metal alloys and electrolytic gels, that are dormant until they touch the skin. Your skin, being naturally conductive and moist, completes a very specific circuit. This initiates a controlled, self-regulating chemical reaction within the patch. Think of it like a miniature, slow-burning fuel cell.
Wow.
And this reaction generates a mild, highly controlled electrical current, or it triggers a controlled pharmaceutical release for a preset duration. The complexity is all in the chemical precision, not the silicon.
And the economics of this must be staggering compared to a traditional medical device.
Absolutely. The fast production costs are extremely low. We're talking about patches that could cost only pennies each to produce,
Just pennies.
which makes them viable for widespread, single-use healthcare products in developing nations or for simple, non-acute applications, unlike a multi-$100 reusable smartwatch.
And what are the prototype applications?
They're fascinating. Accelerating wound healing with localized electric stimulation or targeted forehead patches for neurological therapies like treating migraines or depression with mild currents that stimulate the trigeminal nerve.
And as we touched on earlier, the lack of traditional solid-state electronics solves both a safety and a sustainability problem at the same time.
That is the quiet win here. By avoiding batteries and solid-state silicone electronics, they are fundamentally safer on the body. There's no risk of electronic failure, overheating, or chemical leakage common with lithium batteries.
Right.
And from an environmental perspective, they are far more environmentally benign when you discard them, which addresses the urgent sustainability mandates that the tech sector faces.
So moving from chemistry to advanced mechanics, let's talk about the innovation that truly moves the wearable into a simultaneous diagnostic and therapeutic device, the flexible ultrasound patch.
This is another massive leap, this one coming from KAIST in South Korea. It involves the flexible ultrasound transducer, or FTR. This breakthrough tackles a major limitation of conventional medical ultrasound.
Which is?
The sensors are rigid, they can't conform well to complex body curves, making it impossible to get a precise, continuous scan of areas like your elbow, your knee, or your wrist.
Okay, so how do they overcome that rigidity using a material that is, typically rigid, like metal?
The innovation lies in the FTR's use of a specialized flex-to-rigid metal alloy embedded within a biocompatible silicone base. By running a tiny controlled electrical current through the alloy, they can temporarily raise its temperature just enough to melt it.
So it becomes soft.
Exactly. The entire patch becomes soft and highly shapeable like putty. The user or clinician molds it precisely around the body curve. Once the current is cut, the alloy rapidly cools and solidifies, and the sensor holds that precise curved shape indefinitely.
That precise, gap-free fit must be crucial for high-resolution diagnostic imaging. But you mentioned this enables targeted therapy as well.
It does, and that's the real power shift, because the FTR can maintain extremely high acoustic output even when it's flexible and molded to the body. It can accurately focus beams of energy.
So it can deliver therapy.
It allows it to reach therapeutic levels of low-intensity focused ultrasound, or LAFU, which can non-invasively stimulate targeted tissue deep beneath the skin.
What kind of biological stimulation are we talking about here?
In preclinical models, the patches were used to stimulate the spleen, a crucial organ for regulating inflammation, and they demonstrated significant promise for reducing systemic inflammation.
Which could potentially improve symptoms in chronic conditions like arthritis.
Precisely. This technology moves the wearable from a passive tracker to an active therapeutic device that can image the problem, confirm the diagnosis, and then treat it simultaneously, all while it's molded discreetly to the patient's body.
So we've established that the hardware is shrinking, conforming, and even disappearing. But none of this works, especially the therapeutic part, without the sophisticated brain behind the operation.
And this transition in intelligence inside these devices, it represents a fundamental strategic shift across the entire tech sector. The focus is delegation, not merely augmentation.
Right.
We are moving from AI that passively reports a high heart rate to agentic AI that performs complex actions and makes subtle, proactive decisions on your behalf. This is the co-pilot vision fully realized.
And the market is validating this specialized agent-driven model. The report that Woop, the screenless fitness band, is considering an IPO, that sends a very clear signal.
That is a huge validation signal for the business model, not just the technology. Woop's revenue is generated through mandatory monthly membership plans, not device sales.
Right.
When you subscribe, you aren't buying a piece of plastic. You are subscribing to continuous data analysis and personalized, actionable feedback, your biological co-pilot. This validates the viability of highly specialized, screenless, agent-driven wearables that focus exclusively on delivering continuous, personalized biological optimization.
The most dramatic example of the dissolving interface philosophy, combined with this agentic shift, comes from the ambient AI space.
Absolutely. The recent public prototype reveal from the Google Magic Leap collaboration on Android XR glasses is the physical hardware manifestation of the Ambient Copilot.
So what specifically does Ambient Copilot mean for the user experience?
It means the AI literally sees the world from your perspective. The glasses integrate sophisticated cameras, microphones, and speakers to give the Gemini AI assistant the same vantage point and audio input as you.
Okay.
This enables what is called contextual perception. The AI truly understands your immediate environment. It sees where you are, it knows what object you are looking at, it hears the conversation you are having, and it processes this context in real time.
And crucially, it provides proactive help without requiring you to stop and look down at a screen.
Exactly. But isn't having the AI see the world from your perspective inherently a massive privacy nightmare? How do we trust this copilot isn't just an always-on surveillance tool, even with local processing?
That's the central tension, isn't it?
Right.
And it's why the entire proactive AI vision hinges on solving the edge computing challenge. Running that kind of complex, proactive AI, a large language model analyzing real-world video and audio in real time, takes massive computing power. If the device has to phone home to the cloud every time it needs to identify the dog running across the park or translate a foreign sign, it creates unacceptable latency and huge privacy risks.
So the solution is moving the heavy computation out of the cloud and onto the device itself, edge AI. But how do you cram that much power into a small, power-efficient wearable?
That's where the breakthrough in silicon architecture comes in. The research highlighted the open sourcing of the Coral NPU IP, that stands for Neural Processing Unit, by Google and VeriSilicon.
Okay.
This is a low-power AI core specifically optimized for running LLMs and other demanding AI tasks directly on the device, right at the edge.
And why is this NPU and the underlying architecture so critical for accelerating development in this space?
It's built on the open RISC-V architecture. Unlike proprietary chip designs, RISC-V is an open standard, meaning any developer or manufacturer can take the blueprints and customize them for their exact hardware needs, whether it's an AR glass or a health tracker.
So by open sourcing the Coral NPU on this architecture, they are dramatically lowering the barrier to entry for building custom, power-efficient silicon optimized specifically for on-device AI.
Exactly. This means future devices can process complex vision AI models or analyze biometric signals locally, preserving privacy and delivering instant feedback without a constant reliance on the internet. The intelligence is moving physically closer to the wearer.
Moving from the hardware of the brain to the actual thinking process, the research also validated how sophisticated these LLM agents can become when applied to highly personalized health data.
Yes, the research into advanced large language model agents such as the PHIA system shows they are now capable of analyzing incredibly complex, multimodal wearable data. They are going far beyond simply reporting your step count. They're acting as personalized medical analysts.
So how does that system demonstrate superior reasoning compared to older algorithms?
It's the ability to combine different types of data and use external knowledge. Older code generation methods could only perform simple pre-programmed calculations like, what was my average sleep last week?
Right.
The Agentic LLM, however, can combine code generation, so running calculations on your specific data, with external knowledge, retrieval using tools like web search for general scientific consensus to perform high-level trend analysis and correlation.
Can you give us a concrete example of what a personalized LLM agent can deduce that a simple app cannot?
Sure. A user might ask, I've started training for a marathon this week. My resting heart rate is slightly higher, but my sleep quality is worse. What should I change?
Okay.
The PHIA-like LLM agent first uses code to analyze the multimodal data, comparing changes in steps, run distance, sleep cycles, and heart rate variability, or HRV. It then uses external general knowledge to find scientific recommendations linking HRV patterns to overtraining or insufficient recovery.
Yeah.
Finally, it integrates both sets of knowledge to provide tailored, reasoned advice, such as recommending a specific reduction in evening activity, or suggesting a personalized change in bedtime based on your observed physiological data.
So it's a difference between getting a raw data dump and getting medical coaching tailored to your precise personal biology and activity patterns.
This truly is the co-pilot, anticipating needs and offering solutions.
It is. But as these systems become more powerful and intimately integrated into our daily lives, analyzing not just our pulse, but our environment and our conversations, they bring to the forefront the challenges we need to discuss next. The more valuable and intimate the data, the greater the catastrophic risk if that data falls into the wrong hands.
The security and ethical implications are clearly enormous. We've talked about the hardware disappearing and the intelligence rapidly growing. When Tomorrow Unveiled returns, we need to focus on how to solve these trade-offs and protect the most intimate data we've ever collected.
And before we move on, we want to pause and hear from you. We love hearing your thoughts. Whether you're on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, leave a comment and let us know what you think about AI assistants that act as your proactive co-pilot. Are you ready to delegate?
And if you're finding this exploration of wearable intelligence insightful, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and consider hitting that new hype button to help us reach more viewers. And of course, be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future.
If you're listening on a podcast service like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and a review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It truly helps us reach new listeners and keeps us charting these complex technological waters.
Welcome back to Tomorrow Unveiled. We must be clear. Wearables collect the most intimate, continuous data imaginable: heart rhythms, detailed location history, brain waves, sleep cycles. This collection creates a monumental security and ethical challenge that must be addressed for mainstream adoption to truly take hold.
Right. So why are wearables inherently more vulnerable than, say, the smartphone that controls them or a laptop? Don't they have the same encryption standards?
It fundamentally comes down to resource limitation, a necessary trade-off for miniaturization and battery life. Wearable devices have tiny batteries and limited computation capacity, which means they simply cannot afford the continuous processing power required to run robust, real-time security software.
Like continuous antivirus.
Exactly. Or execute the complex, computing-intensive asymmetric encryption for every single message they send. They have to take resource-saving shortcuts.
So those resource limitations are what hackers target. What kinds of common attacks does this vulnerability open them up to?
Several. Dictionary attacks are common because authentication is often weak, requiring short or simple passwords to minimize user friction. More dangerously, if an edge gateway, typically the paired smartphone, is compromised, it leaves the wearable open to firmware modification attacks.
Can you walk us through how a firmware modification attack actually works on a device designed to monitor my heart?
Certainly. If the hacker takes control of your smartphone, they can inject malicious code disguised as a legitimate security update. The smartphone, which is the trusted partner, downloads this tampered firmware and transmits it to the wearable via Bluetooth.
And the wearable just accepts it.
Because it lacks the processing power for rigorous verification, it may install the malicious code. That code can then do anything from destroying the device by draining the battery constantly to sending your private biometric data not to the health cloud, but to the hacker's server.
And there's the broader risk of turning these ubiquitous devices into weapons used against the wider digital ecosystem, correct?
Yes, the research team highlighted the serious risk of distributed denial of service, or DDoS, attacks. Hackers can exploit weak authentication to take control of thousands of resource-limited wearables simultaneously, turning them into a massive network of bots.
And these bots can then be directed to flood a target server with billions of requests, effectively shutting down online services.
Precisely. This potential for weaponizing consumer electronics is why developers must focus so heavily on enhancing hardware-level authentication.
So in terms of solutions, if encryption is so resource-intensive, what technical measures are necessary to protect the sensitive data while still ensuring the devices remain small and efficient?
We need robust, multi-layered security protocols. This includes the fundamentals like strong end-to-end encryption for data transmission and mandatory multi-factor authentication. But the more advanced solution highlighted by the research team is utilizing hardware isolation techniques like trusted execution environments, or TEEs.
Explain the T concept for us. How does hardware isolation work within a tiny chip?
Well, think of the chip within the wearable as a large room. The TEE is like building a physical safe inside that room. This safe is a hardware-protected area physically separated from the main operating system and applications.
I see.
Sensitive computations, like running the critical parts of an AI model, processing encryption keys, or analyzing raw health metrics, are conducted entirely within the TEE.
So even if the rest of the device's software is compromised, the sensitive data processing remains safe in the hardware safe.
Exactly. It protects the integrity of the data and the AI model itself, even if a hacker gains administrative access to the rest of the system. TEEs are crucial for building trust, especially as we move to edge AI, where data processing happens locally.
And beyond technical security, we have to talk about the ethical frontier, which is moving into the mind itself with neural interfaces and brain-computer interfaces. This is the last frontier of personal privacy.
It's the most profound challenge facing the industry and society. The research team noted the landmark achievement of UNESCO formally adopting the first global framework on the ethics of neurotechnology.
Which is a massive, necessary step, acknowledging that we are on the precipice of technology that can literally read our thoughts.
So what is the core principle affirmed by this framework, and what specific new rights does it advocate for?
The central pillar is the inviolability of the human mind. The framework explicitly urges governments to treat neural data, so anything collected from BCIs, even non-invasive EEG headbands, as a special, hypersensitive category of personal data.
And crucially, it advocates for establishing new neural rights, specifically cognitive liberty and mental privacy.
Cognitive liberty sounds incredibly futuristic. What does that legally protect?
Cognitive liberty essentially affirms the individual's right to make autonomous decisions about their own consciousness and thought processes. It seeks to ban the unauthorized interception, manipulation, or alteration of a person's cognitive state using neurotechnology.
So if we have BCIs that can detect intent or mood, this framework aims to legally ensure no external party can interfere with that private mental landscape.
Exactly. And this isn't just theory. We're already seeing commercial devices that can measure brain activity entering the market. The privacy crisis is already here, and user awareness lags far, far behind the technology.
It does. Studies consistently reveal that users often underestimate the risks involved in sharing continuous wearable data. Companies historically rely on opaque privacy policies filled with legal jargon that people rarely read.
And when you combine raw biometric data like heart rhythms, movement, and location with sophisticated LLM agents capable of inference, the potential for unauthorized conclusions about mood, health conditions, or even psychological state becomes massive.
So how do we build confidence and protect these personal health insights in a way that is transparent and user-friendly?
Transparency and absolute user control are paramount. Companies must implement simplified, transparent consent forms, moving away from dense legalese to easily understandable terms.
And more importantly, they must give users true, granular control over their data, including the crucial, easy option for data deletion, restricted access, and clear auditing of where their data is being used.
Building this user confidence is essential for long-term adoption, especially as these devices transition from lifestyle trackers to certified indispensable medical tools.
This exploration on Tomorrow Unveiled has revealed that the strapped-in future is already being built across multiple, converging technological dimensions.
We've seen three monumental shifts converge this week. First, the emergence of wearables as essential clinical diagnostic tools, validated by FDA-cleared features for conditions like AFib and their revolutionary capability to monitor chronic diseases like heart failure via intrathoracic impedance.
Which significantly reduces readmissions and cuts massive healthcare costs.
Second, the radical materials science breakthroughs leading to the wear and forget philosophy. From advanced, high-compliance smart rings with 18-point sensor pathways and smart textiles,
To revolutionary electronics-free chemical patches and flexible ultrasound transducers that combine diagnostics with simultaneous targeted therapy, the physical device is designed to disappear.
and third, the critical transition to agentic intelligence. This core co-pilot vision, driven by breakthroughs in edge computing like the open-source Coral MPU built on RISC-V.
Allows sophisticated LLM agents like PHIA to process complex multimodal data locally, preserving privacy while proactively anticipating your needs and offering genuinely personalized medical guidance.
This acceleration is defining a clear market bifurcation. On one track, you have the biological co-pilot, the subscription model validated by companies like Woop, focusing on deep, continuous, specialized biometric monitoring and optimization.
And on the other, the Ambient co-pilot, the platform model, seen in devices like the Android XR glasses, where the AI assistant shares your physical vantage point through contextual perception, dissolving the screen interface entirely and interacting seamlessly with your real-world environment.
But the deeper this technology goes, especially into the neural frontier with BCIs becoming reality, the more critical the ethical questions become. We saw UNESCO establishing the inviolability of the human mind as a core principle that society must uphold.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you, the listener, as you consider strapping into this new reality. If wearable technology is moving from merely tracking our steps and heart rate to potentially reading our brainwaves and augmenting our thoughts, how quickly will we, as a society, ensure the definition of personal privacy and core human rights evolves to match the blistering pace of the technology? What specific new legal rights must we demand to protect the integrity and autonomy of our own cognition?
Food for thought as you strap into the future. Thank you for joining us for this exploration on Tomorrow Unveiled.
We'll see you next time on Tomorrow Unveiled.